Hey everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, the huge lilac is going to get a wooden box. I had thought for a brief moment that I would work on this really big tree out here where I could get dirty and put the dirt around and spread out, and it's a little too windy and it's only about 41 degrees. Beautiful sunshine today, high pressure is in Minnesota, but it's just not there yet. I just can't do it. So we're gonna bring this beast into the plant room, take off the flannel and dig into this guy and try to get into a box. So let's lug it on inside and see if we can get started. Okay, this will be another beast of a repot. This thing weighs close to 40 or 50 pounds already. The size of this tree, the size of this pot. I dug it out of the ground last year. I believe I have some photographs when I dug this thing up, so I'll show you some of that here while I begin. I've got my soil ready. I've got the box in the garage that's almost ready. I just have to put the bottom in, and I want to put the bottom in last based on how deep this is going to sit in there. I'll raise it up a little bit so I don't waste soil, and I'll have a nice shallow pot. But I made a nice big sturdy box. My concern is once it's in that box and there's soil in there and this tree's in there, will I be able to bring it back upstairs from my basement plant room? But we'll cross that bridge when we get there, and I can always ask my son to come on over and help me with the lift. Or we'll put it in the pot in the garage after everything's all organized, and we'll just go ahead and do it out there because the garage is probably in the 40s. There's no wind, and we can just put it into the pot and then just shove it outside, get it watered, and then bring it back in until we get that warm weather we're looking for. So this is a huge 4-trunk lilac bush from the house. So this dates the house. So the house was built in 90, and so we're in 22, so this is a 30-plus-year-old tree, a shrub bush, you know, the lilac. And I just chopped it up, dug it out of the ground, and I thought, boy, let's just see what'll happen with this monster tree. So as you can see, I have some secondary branches already growing here. We can do some work to get rid of some more of this and up here. And we've got all kinds of buds that are just wanting to come out so bad. But this cold spell has kept them in check, which is great because now I can get this repotted and we'll see what we got. I'm not sure how the big lilac is going to end up, but it'll be a fun experiment. I also don't believe I'll ever have a tree this big in my bonsai career, growing from cuttings, unless I get some kind of auction tree or buy it from someone else, buy a big nursery stock again. This was grown in our backyard. We've been here for this will be our 7th year in the house, so I've watched it and clipped it a few times, and we've got a whole bunch of hedges of these lilacs. Now they're not the Little Miss Kim lilacs, so they're huge. It'll produce big flowers. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to just see what this beast of a tree can provide us. So I'm going to gently get away some of the dirt from the edges here. And if I remember, there's some pretty big roots in there that we might have to do some sawing on. And we'll have to work on these root system throughout the next couple of years and try to get some fine ramified roots. The reason why I want to wait to construct the bottom of my wooden pot is, again, I want to know how deep this is and how thick the root system really is down this massive trunk. And I don't want to bury it too deep in the soil that we're going to use. There it comes. All right. So, came out of there relatively easy, but again, it's because there's a lot of big roots in here and probably not a ton of fine roots. So we're going to have to be careful here and not damage some of the finer roots if we can help it, because we want to keep some of those and grow on those and not have the big bulky ones. Now this was put just in dirt. I didn't put any pumice in here. This was just dirt from my yard, extra clippings or extra nursery soil. So we did not put any pumice in here, which I typically would do with a yamadori. So this urban yamadori was just replanted in the soil. And the reason why I did that is because I may have said this in other episodes with my trees. There's a nice little rock right there, future decoration. I have another large lilac that I've been growing for a couple years. I'll show you some images of that. And I can put a link up to my other big lilac videos or the playlist. I'll put that link here on this part of the video for you. You can click on that. But I'll also show you some of that. I did some tool work with a Dremel, and I put some dead wood on it, looking like this. That tree had been through a lot of hard life. Got it into this plastic bonsai training pot. It's been slow but sure. One of the issues I have found with that tree, one, I have to have it grow for a couple more years before I'm going to get any blooms, if I'm going to get blooms. I have not had any blooms on it yet. I'm hoping this year is the year that tree blooms. One of the things I run into with that tree is when I water my trees multiple times a day in the middle of summer, I'm finding that I have the most fungal issues with the lilac than any other tree in my collection and any other tree or shrub in my yard, because I can see fungus growing on my lilac bushes at the end of the season, and it's the worst part of the fungus is on all the areas that I have my bonsai benches where I'm watering once, twice a day in the summertime. So there is an issue with the lilacs, and fungus is what my assumption will be. So when I put this in the pot, I will definitely give it some starter fertilizer, like I've been putting this spring. Some of the starter fertilizer in there to hope encourage this to do some wonderful things this year. And then I'll also give it some systemic fungus product that will help with some of the fungus. I used it last year on my trees, and I will get that bag and show you that later in the potting. And I put those in my pots. I put them in my pots last spring to try to negate some of that fungal. So kind of taking care of it before it's a problem. And it's an organic, systemic, preventative measure. So I'll show that a little bit later when we get to attempting to pot this big one up. Breaking the branches when I'm laying it down like this up there. I want to keep all that growth. Now, as I was, I think, alluding to earlier, and I don't know if I finished my thought, that other lilac that I was working on, that I made some deadwood features on, I noted in that video, and I've noted, I think, before, that these lilacs grow pretty ferociously. They're like a weed. And when I dug out that particular lilac tree, that bush, to make room, incidentally, for my bonsai pot, or my bonsai benches, and for our gardening, we wanted to have a garden, and then I had the bonsai benches back there eventually. So we made some room by taking down some lilacs that had gone almost all the way around half of our yard, the whole north side and the whole east side. When I took the tree out and just put it back in the kind of dead tree pile and the stuff to get to later, you know, you have those parts in your yard, it's kind of like your junk drawer in your house, and there was a spot where all our old trees were, and all my old shrubs, and some of my graveyard for some of my bonsai, unfortunately at the time, it was early in my bonsai. And then I noticed a month or two later that the tree started to sprout new growth, and it continued to grow. And I said, hey, maybe I should just, what the heck, let's try to make this a bonsai. It's a really big lilac bush, right, that has big flowers, and it won't have that scale size that people are looking for in, you know, true bonsai trees. But this is a shrub. It's a shrub that has, you know, a woody trunk on it, right? And so, you know, anything that has a woody trunk, many of us try to make into a bonsai. So I thought, what the heck? Let's give it a whirl. And so we did. And so that one is doing okay. I did have some issues, like I said, with some fungus. I've had a little bit of issue with a couple of my lilacs with critter chew. So that one suffered a little bit of that as well. And so I think that tree this year could be this could be the year that it does maybe shoot out a couple of buds and we get a couple of flowers on there. A couple of the other trees I dug out, I put them in my backyard, actually my side yard, and we have little trees in the backyard too. I have a couple of photos of those trees, and what I was able to do to save some of those lilac bushes and turn them into more like a lilac tree. It was kind of like my, hey, you know, bonsai, this could look like a bonsai. So I have these round lollipop type trees that are the lilac bushes. So as I dig through the soil here on this beast, we're making some progress. It's a little gnarly down here, very wet soil. You know, we've had all this cold weather, so the last time I watered this kind of probably just had no chance to even remotely dry out. And again, this is just dirt from around the garden, and we ended up putting this in this great big nursery pot that I have, and just let it grow all of last year. So I already have a big root right here that I know I'll take off. This is not something we'll keep going straight down. We have some fine roots in here, which is nice to see, so I want to try to preserve some of those. And again, we're going to try to get rid of much of this dirt and mud as possible. I don't think I've had any issue with my other lilac with coming close to bare rooting the tree. Again, we're going to look for this thing to stay alive in the wood crate for another couple of years and shoot out some more fine feeder roots. And then we can come in and get more of this soil out in the future if I'm not able to bare root this down here. Now, the challenge to bare rooting this in my plant room is if I get a spray of water in here and start making a big old muddy mess. That I definitely would have to need one of my bins for, so I don't make a huge mess in the basement here. But I might want to spray some water in here just to kind of see what this is going to look like. And the lilac trees also, at least from my experience, the ones in my yard, and the one that I'm trying to grow in that bonsai pot that I showed you before, they shoot up an unbelievable amount of suckers. So you could grow a small lilac, like half of the one in that pot that I showed you, half of this size right here, and you're going to shoot out all kinds of new growth in a couple of years just off to the side. The suckers that come up everywhere in the trunk too, the sides of the trunk, the bottom of the trunk, from the roots that lead elsewhere. There are so many suckers that have come that I have cut off. It's one of those things when you're in your yard looking at your bonsai trees every single day. I'll walk by the lilac clump and I will go ahead and I will take my shears and I will take off some of the suckers that are growing, because they just grow that often. We've gotten a fair amount of the dirt off so far. I got this big gnarly root here. This one right here I'm just going to break off, I think. Then we have this big gnarly section right here and this big knot right here. This is some big old root structure that we'll have to slowly chip away. So this is going to be some work. But some of these chunks on the bottom here, I'm just going to be able to, I think, cut right off. Some of them break right off. They are brittle roots. They will snap off pretty decently, like right like that. And I'm able to twist that right off and break it off. But I would like to try to see if I can get a couple of roots here taken care of. You got this big root right here. Now part of me doesn't want to take it off right away because I want to get it cut as deep as I can. So I'm going to clean up around it a little bit and see if there's other ones here I can break off. Because some of these right down at the bottom here, I don't know where or how high they go up, but they're about 6 inches from the what might be the soil line, at least from what I think right now. I think some of these are clippable. Yeah. Always being careful of those branches up top there. Like we got one sticking right here. A speck of dirt on my glasses. I keep looking at the speck. You know, this, look at this. So this is a new root from the very bottom of this. This is all going to be cut off though, so we don't need that one. We don't need that one. Don't need that. This chunk here, we will attempt to do some. Yeah. So that one. And there's some nice new medium-sized roots growing from the top. Look at that one just sitting in there. So we're going to be able to utilize a lot of those roots at the top and try not to disturb those too much. But then stuff down here, we're going to want to continue to slowly eke away at. And again, we're going to have to use a saw here pretty soon on some of these guys. I want to make sure that I can get my saw in there in a nice clean spot. And I want to see how many fine roots are coming maybe from the top, like this one right here. This is a nice root right here. So this right here is a good root that could become future roots. Oh, and I just broke it. I just snapped it. But it goes higher and there's more fine roots out of it. That's how tender some of these roots can be. Look at that. Yeah, I can just chip that right off. Yeah. So we gotta be careful as we get closer to what we want to salvage. Here's where I just broke that off. So I think I'm gonna attempt to cut some of this off then right here. Cut that one off. Cut that one off. So there we've got 2 to 3 inches chopped off that bottom. We get this big cluster here, and we'll continue to sew off more individual roots all clustered together. So that took off a really nice chunk of that bottom trunk here. Now we have to decide what kind of things we're going to save. We're going to maybe wash this out pretty soon. Now we have a root right here that's growing that way. And that would not be a good root regardless of where it was planted. So we got that one cleared up. And again, We want to do as much root work as we can every time we crack into our bonsai pot and we repot it. We want to take advantage of being able to see all the roots, where they're growing, and we're going to try to place them in the best possible way to have that next growth really show some benefits for us. I'm at a good point here. Before I add water to this and make a mess in one of my bins, I've got this big chunk down here that's really, really thick. And it has a nice hole right here, which is past halfway of the center of this structure. And I think I can just go ahead and I'm going to use my handsaw, and I'm just going to try to cut right through that. I think I'll try right here. Look at that. Whew. There was what we were looking at. There's what we cut off. Got a little bit more to go through here. I think we're good. We can almost fit in this pot. Okay. Sweat on the glasses. Sweat dripping down. So there we have our tree. And the current angle right now that it sits is right like this. We probably want to bring it more upright like that. I've got this big gnarly root here to contend with, and I got this one right here. We bumped a lot of roots in that cutting. I got a couple of branches back here that touch the edge. Right. Right. So we have a couple of roots that are going up. Got this one. We can reposition that one a little bit. They cross. This one's going up. Well, this certainly was a big chunk of the weight right here, and it's gone. So we're going to bring this outside. We'll get some water, and we'll get this thing watered down. That'd be a good sized pot right there. So let's give this thing a little bit of a bath. After hosing it down a little bit, here's what we have left. So in the back we have this really big root going this way. I don't know that I can take that one off of the tree, but I certainly could maybe trim it down a bit. There's the possibility. I don't know if this is strong enough to do that. Try it down here first. I don't think so. Nope. So I don't want to put another saw in there. So the last remnants of the dirt here is starting to go away. Some roots that are not even attached, stuck in there. Here's a root right here that's curving around. That's not going to be great curving around. So there we go. To be cautious, I don't want to get rid of any more roots. And so we definitely have some that wrap around. We have some stuff here that we'd have to figure out later on. We've got some finer or medium-sized roots, some medium roots right here. The big life of the tree is over here. We're just going to get it into some soil, and we're going to hope that everything enjoys the new surroundings. So I have to go out in the garage now with this, and I have to see how deep we're going to make this pot. So we'll do that, and we'll jump back at it. I'm outside in the garage, and we have put together the crate. So we have the floor about 2/3 of the way down the second 5-inch plank there. And so we're going to put the tree in there, and we're going to wrap around some wire to hold this tree in. We'll get some inner tubing in there to protect it so we don't damage the roots or the base of the trunk of the tree there. So we're going to get some wire in here. We're going to also get some screen in here, and then we're going to get some coarse soil and get this thing started. The mesh is in, the wire's in, the coarse soil is in. Now we need the tree to be in. So the soil line can go right about here, unless I bring it down a little bit further, which I think I'd like to. There. And we'll have it a little bit slanted. Right about there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the two wires from the back side and bring them forward, and then I'll bring these and so we'll tug it that way and we'll tug it this way. I think I'll do the back first, and I'll get some tubing down here so I don't scratch some of these roots down here. Tighter, get that tube in place, and that first initial twist. We'll get our pliers in here. We'll lift up and then twist it on down into the tree. Before I go too tight, make sure I get this inner tube on this part as well. There we go. And now we can give it a twist. Now I don't want to do the back too tight yet, because I want to make sure that I bring it forward a little bit. And this is going to come down together right there. Somewhere in there. Get my inner tube in there. There we go. Okay. Inner tube is loosely in place. I got far too much wire on here. But with this big of a tree, and this heavy of equipment, I just rather have more than not enough. Okay, so we're pulling up tight. Let's get myself pretty tight. The back can be stretched a little bit more. And then the rest of the soil will help hold that down. So I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of my course in there. And then we'll put the finer stuff on the top, because it's a big pot. I'll get my chopstick for putting some soil down in there. You know, it's a lot of soil when you use almost 2 5-gallon buckets. So we're going to put some starter fertilizer in here. I'm going to put it in here before I tamp this soil down so I get some of it inside there, because I didn't get it down low there where I wanted it in the soil. So So we are close to the end here. We'll get some water in here after I get some of the soil tamping down. Get that fertilizer shaken in there. So we got some large rock on the bottom. We got some medium on the top. Plenty of drainage. There wasn't a ton of roots at the bottom that were left after we cut everything away. But I think enough roots with this tree that it's pretty easy to get new roots and just throw up new suckers all the time, all year long with my other variety. I was able to get a big chunk of the bottom off, so we made a really good, I think, good progress for this year with the root structure. And then when we repot this in a couple of years, we'll probably be able to recycle some of this soil since we have so much of it, especially the bigger granules on the bottom. There we go, getting some of that stuff tucked in there. There we go. We'll be able to recycle some of this soil for sure, and we'll be able to get this thing, hopefully, to push out some really good growth this year. And then in a couple years, maybe we'll have flowers. And again, we'll keep you up to date on the other one and see if we get flowers this year. A couple of purple lilacs, and we'll be able to smell the beautiful smell of the beautiful lilac tree. Root there that doesn't want to stay down. A couple more handfuls of soil here. We got some inner tube that's showing just a little bit, but I'm not too overly concerned about that. So before I go out and water this beast and make it all heavy, I wanted to show you my Infuse. So I have used Infuse. It is a lawn and landscape systemic fungicide for turf and ornamentals. And so this Infuse is what I've been using. And you just put a little granules in there, read the instructions carefully. I'll have to reread them before I put them on my plants this spring. But I'm going to wait until the weather warms up another 10, 15, 20 degrees, and then I'll get that on all my plants. And we'll do that with this one too after it gets a little hold here. So we're going to bring this outside and give it some water here. And we'll see how heavy this beast is. Yeah, that's pretty heavy. There we go. We got a gallon of water here on the lilac tree. It's in its box, and Milo wants to play. So we've got it draining out of the bottom. This thing is a beast to carry. I can do it if I lift with my legs. We are going to bring it back into the garage so we can make sure that this thing stays in good shape for the last couple days here as we dip down into the 20s. So we don't want any of what little roots are left on here to have any issues. I did notice when I took it outside here, there's a little bud that tried to grow right there. So we have another bud that's back here. I noticed we can get buds this low. This thing could grow up and be an amazing looking tree with this trunk. So some back budding in the future. The lowest back bud on the tree is way back over here, about this high. There's some this level in the back here. These are growing here, but we got a split in the trunk that goes down to here, so I don't know if this is going to make it up here, but we might get some back button down here, and we'll cut this off. So we have buds ready to go. We have it repotted. It's in the box, and it'll be fun to see, as always, what's going to happen with this tree. This was a lot of work. I'm a little tired. I think it's time to eat dinner, too. Hey, that's going to do it for another one. Thank you so much for watching. Click like, subscribe if you haven't already, and tell all your friends about Dave's Bonsai. We got a lot of work yet to do this spring. We'll get to it very soon. All right, take care of you. Take care of your bonsai, and we'll catch y'all very, very soon.